Fer Caggiano is an internationally renowned local artist who's now using her art as a voice for the greater good. I talk one-on-one with her for this edition of Quintins CloseUps. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintins CloseUps on Facebook. Fer Caggiano, welcome to the award-winning Quintins CloseUps.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You know, you are a Brazilian-born painter and an internationally recognized local artist, and now an American citizen. Congratulations on that. And of course, you're very welcome. Happy to have you here. And of course, you were born and raised in Brazil, but you have lived in London, Madrid, the New York City area, and I know you've called Charleston home for at least 3 years now.
Yes, it's getting close to 5 by now.
Wow, 5. What is the biggest difference between 5 years ago and right now when you think of Charleston?
Wow, a lot has changed. I think I even heard I live in Mount Pleasant, so I consider myself a suburban Charleston. And I see now we're actually getting traffic. Like my hometown, São Paulo, is heavy traffic, and I'm noticing big changes here.
Wow. How do those changes match with your art style?
Oh, wow. I'll say when I first got here, I was very happy that I had moved to a very mellow area. So it was a very different pace from my hometown, São Paulo, very hectic, busier than New York. And then New York, London, Madrid, all those places that I've been. So I was like, wow, I can actually, do something quiet.
Right.
And it started just picking up the pace, and I got more and more involved with the community. So now I hardly find, a minute to breathe, and I'm constantly doing all these projects over and over, one on top of the other. I was doing the Like a Girl Dare to Dream, and then people now ask me what is next. So I think I set high expectations, and I have all these things that I plan on doing, and yeah, it became just as busy as anywhere else that I've been.
And let me go to that, because that's where me and you met earlier this summer. And it's obviously the exhibition that was at the Waterfront Park called Like a Girl Dare to Dream. And obviously you highlighted a lot of notable women here in the Charleston area. What dare you to dream about this exposition?
Well, I will say being a female artist is not something so easy. People don't think about it so often. But if you look at museums and galleries, you will see men behind the scenes. Men are painting, and women are usually painted naked. So women are hanging on the wall and not actually creating the art. And me coming from a portrait school, I lived in New York and I studied at the Art Students League. So I used to paint portraits. And when I moved here, I have been doing landscapes, just because it's a much easier way to make a living. So of course, people want to have a nice, relaxing scene and not a face of someone they don't know. So I've been on that path for a long time, and I suddenly had the urge to go back to portraits. So I got back into figurative, and of course, when you paint figurative, there's a lot of nudity. So I painted a few nudes, and I was told I shouldn't be doing that because Charleston is very conservative, and people wouldn't take it nicely. But if you think about it, that has been the main thing in art since the very first piece, which was a torso of Venus, the goddess of fertility. So that was how, art started, the very first piece that you consider an art piece. And then I was like, why are people telling me that I can't be doing something? And, it's my art. I should be able to do whatever I want. And then it goes further. If he was a man, maybe people wouldn't have told him that he shouldn't be doing that. So it got me thinking, and that put a lot of pressure on me. Why are we told not to do things? And then you question about this, and you realize how many times women are told not to do something, and you shouldn't be doing this position, you shouldn't be in this or that business. So I realized that since people told me that this is a conservative area, I was going to show our community that we do have amazing women that are doing fantastic things. So I started out with a helicopter pilot for the Navy. She's absolutely amazing. She's deployed right now. I hope she's back soon because she hasn't seen her baby forever. She has 3 kids, and the youngest one is smaller than mine. So I'm like, I can't understand people doing that kind of service. So anyway, bless Allison. And I have, after her, I started connecting, and it came to a full body of 40 portraits of amazing women that we have here in the Charleston area.
Yeah, I know most of them, and I was so excited to see most of them. Tessa Spencer, Carol Linville, Anne Marie Graham, who used to be the Alpha Palms Fire Chief. So many people, and a lot of others I don't know as of yet, but I'd like to meet them as well. But man, that was a great exposition.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I know on your website you say, "Hey, I often find myself painting so you can enjoy the creative process." How do you film yourself creatively?
Oh, I would say like I can't even sleep. My mind is so busy creating. I actually suffer from insomnia.
Oh.
I am constantly inspired by life and everything that is around me. So when I hear people saying I'm having a creative block, and I'm like, I can share 1,000 ideas right now that you can use because I don't have the time to make them. So I actually like, I'm constantly thinking, I bump into people, I hear stories, I see something that inspires me, and I take notes. I have like pages of ideas of different things that I want to do. So at this time, my creative process is I look at my ideas, what is worth my time and what will create an impact. Because I have decided that art is my voice to help promote change for the greater good. So even my next show, which is like a small gallery commercial show represented by the Grand Bohemian, and we're going to do a launch in October, I decided to choose bees and pollinators because I want to bring awareness that they're important and people can help by, doing little things like, keeping their garden with weeds. Bees love weeds. So we have lost like 40% of the population of bees in the States in the past few years. So it's a very dramatic situation, and we need them to pollinate our crops. So it's a small show, but I still chose a theme that can help bring awareness to people on something that is important. So that's how I function right now.
And let me just go to the obvious. And you said this too. You just said this a second ago, but you also said this on your website. I have a calling to use my art as a voice for the greater good. What is the greater good right now here in Charleston?
I will say the two things that really move me is first, equality. I do think that we are way ahead from where we were 10 years ago, but there's still like so much that needs changing. So much like in the gender equality, in the ethnicity background equality, there's so much that it still needs to be changed. So that's one thing that I will always fight for. And even though my project with Like a Girl Dare to Dream is finished, who knows, if I get a sponsor, I could go bigger, and launch, like a bigger project, opening, space in bigger areas for, continuing with this message. I even have a book on this. Like I put a book together for Like a Girl so people can have all the stories that they saw on the exhibition. Yes. And continue moving with that message. So yeah, we'll talk, equality is my number one goal. And then environment, because I think if we don't have a planet that is sustainable, we are not going to be here. We need the planet. It's not like the planet needs us. If, we are extinct in 200 years, from what I understood, all the things that I've looked up, the planet will be recovered. They don't, the earth doesn't need us humans. And we actually create a very bad impact on the earth. So unless we change the way we live here, we're not going to have a planet for our children. So that's another thing that I care about. So I support a reforestation project. My bigger project coming after the bees, I am going to be talking about loss of habitat for our local animals. So that will be my next big one. I'm still researching on that.
Wow. And how would you paint the bees and the planet right now?
Well, right now I can show you, like, this is one little painting here. It's the one I finished.
Oh, wow.
So this right here is one bee, and wow. I am going to create a large hive. So that's my idea on how I'm going to display. I'm going to have all this honeycomb looking, hive, and then I'm going to portray the, bees, bumblebees, all the variations that we have. And with that, I'm going to show information that will say, how you can be involved and how can you help. So that's how I'm putting this out.
And let me go back to obviously the City Gallery at Waterfront Park exposition, because that was a phenomenal, popular exposition that people loved. which one of those stories have actually inspired you as an artist?
Oh, wow. I will say I've interviewed every single one of the women for the project, and they each inspired me differently. And I will say, like, the final piece that I had in the show was a mirror painting that is like a figure with a mirror, reflective paint. And the idea was like, what's your story? So I wanted people to look there and read all of those bios. In the same time that you feel so small, because like I felt so little, especially like you wanted an example, Dr. Reshma Khan.
Right.
She created a free clinic here in Mount Pleasant, which, like the cost of putting that together is huge. And she put so much effort. She created it from nothing. She now has a full functioning free clinic for, everyone that needs it. So you look at that and you go like, wow, they're doing so much. And what am I doing? Like, how can I help be of better service to our community? So Dr. Reshma Khan certainly was one of the most inspiring stories for me. But then I have like, little things like, which are not, you don't think of so intense, but you look at Tia Clark. I absolutely love that woman.
Yes.
And, she comes from a tough upbringing, and she had, she was in the beverage industry. She was overweight. And a cousin suggested that she should be doing crabbing because, she liked doing that. And then she was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then suddenly she took off, and, and you can see the success in her because she's passionate about what she's doing. Like, I took my kids to go crabbing with her, and I'm vegetarian. So, it still was an experience that I felt comfortable because she's so caring. She knows exactly all the stories about, how the crabbing should happen and how it's, it's meant to be done and not, aggressive to the poor animals and all of that. So anyway, she's amazing. And I look at her and I'm like, wow, she did it. She's now like one of the top Airbnb experiences in the world. She's been interviewed nationally about what she's doing. She's just like, her team is, it's growing. It started just her. Now she has, I think, 6-7 people in her team. It's amazing. And it's just because she's doing what she loves.
Exactly right. And you said unfortunately you feel like you felt like you were small doing that exposition and actually interviewing those ladies. What message did you get from those ladies?
Oh, I got a message of courage, like truly believing that you can do it and then going for it. Like every single one of them, we all question ourselves, but all of those women, they don't allow that to stop them. So they keep going, no matter if they're questioning themselves, if the community is questioning them, they continue because they have a vision and they want to see it happen.
Where did you get your vision from this exposition?
Oh, wow. I'll say like I had never seen the City Gallery until I got selected for a juried exhibition. And when I was there, I looked at that place and I was like, this is the best venue I've seen in forever. The space and the 2 floors, location. I was like, this is just beautiful. And me, like as an artist, I looked at that and I was like, this is a dream. And I designed the show for that. And I was like, I have no idea if they're going to pick my show. I have no idea if they're going to accept my proposal. But I designed it for the City Gallery. And it took over a year to hear back from them. I put the application and nothing was happening. I started researching other locations because I didn't get a no. I didn't get a yes. I was like, I don't have a place that can fit that show, like I designed for it. And I was close to, giving up, having like everything together. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And I got the call. And then they called me and they said like, can you show next month? And I was like, oh my God, I so want to do this. And I still had 7 quarters to finish. So I was, working like at full speed. And I even finished, like I hung a few paintings, it's still wet. And I finished the last one on site. So it was intense, but I wanted it there, and I'm overwhelmed that they actually accepted my application.
And what artistically did not stop you from not going forward?
Artistically speaking?
Yes, ma'am, when it came to the exposition.
Mm. Oh,
What kept you going artistically? Did not just give up.
I just really wanted to paint people.
Mm.
So I love painting people and understanding who they are.
Right.
And if you notice on my paintings, I put a lot of information on the background,
Right.
stuff that represent them. So that for me is just like, it's very passionate. I really enjoy doing that. So I wanted to do it, and I wanted to maybe even prove myself that I could. Because it was a huge project. Yes. I took 2 years, doing that. Between, being a gallery owner, I quit the gallery to focus on this, and then pandemic hit, and I was homeschooling. I was like, everything could possibly have gone
wrong,
but it still happened. So like, I pushed really hard, and I was like, I can actually do this, and I made it. And I was like, and seeing, like, as an artist, seeing the response that they had to their, like, seeing themselves. Like, if you see Kenya here, she was the first person through the door when the exhibition opened. And I woke up to a message from her which said, like, she was so proud of me that I was an example of resilience, because she was in the project from the very beginning. So she saw the struggles, she saw like lack of sponsorship. So I had to put all the financial investment from myself, which was very hard. And the minute she walked through the door, the woman that speaks for a living was speechless. I have a video that for me is like the best ever. I try to record like everyone coming through, and Kenya walks in and she looks at her painting and she's like, and she just like, she can't talk for a full minute. And I was in tears. I was like, this is so amazing. And just seeing how a lot of them just felt like being celebrated for all their achievements and being hanging in a museum, because the city gallery is not just like a commercial gallery. It is a museum sponsored by the city.
That's right.
So it is a huge deal.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And I was like, oh my God. So having their reaction for me as an artist was absolutely priceless.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, the ladies still love it to this day, and it's just amazing. It was an amazing project, so thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
And, I want to go back because obviously, we talked obviously about how often you film yourself painting so that you can enjoy the creative process. How do you creatively paint yourself?
Oh, that is interesting. I have done so many self-portraits, because when you want to paint and you don't have a model, you paint yourself. So I come from a school where you paint from life, and I would have, the models in the class, and just set the easel, and they're staying like still and all of this. And when I would paint myself, I would use a mirror. But for this show, I decided to photograph my women, because I can't, like, it was very hard to find a minute on their schedule to actually photograph them.
Right.
And in some people, like, for instance, like Tia Clark that we talked before, she's throwing her net.
Yes.
So it's a movement photo. I couldn't have her holding that pose. Right. I have like Dr. Donna Roberts, she's flying in space at zero gravity, because she studies the brain activity at zero gravity. So she's floating. And for that reason, like, I had to work with photos, and I had to work with all the creative process. And then when you see here myself on the image, it's funny because people say like, you have a different angle, and are you left-handed? And I was like, no, it's merely because I took a selfie for that photo.
That's it.
And everyone else, I had the camera, like a good camera, and I put them, in the scenario that I wanted to picture them, like either working or whatever. And I took a very good photo. For myself, selfie. And just, shooting. So I'm holding, I can't shoot with the left hand. So I'm holding my tools with the left hand as I shoot. And then it's like, it has a different angle. It has like a different, approach. But that's how I did it. And I think it even makes it interesting, because it has like a backside story to it.
Yes, absolutely. What is the backside to this exposition?
Oh, backside, like how I put it together, like how it came to be.
Yes,
I would
ma'am.
say I had one meeting here in my studio with a person from the School for Newcomers. She's a PR, and her name is Robin Scarella. So she came to interview me for something, an event that we're doing. And we got into the conversation of the piece that I did that got juried into the Piccolo Spoleto juried show at the City Gallery. And then I mentioned that I wanted to, paint inspiring women. So I started out of that very simple conversation. She's the one that connected me with Allison because she's involved with women in aviation. And then she connected me with a few other people. And before we knew it, like, first she wanted me to do like a small project. She had her mind setting 7 portraits. And I'm like, Robin, I can't make a show with only 7. I'm going to put like 40 to, like, first I say 30. And then when I approach the City Gallery, they say like, if you want to apply, you have to have like at least 40 because, otherwise it's not going to fill the space. It's not going to, have a strong look. So everything started shifting. And I almost drove Robin crazy because she helped me throughout the whole time. Like, she helped me by finding the women. She helped me, getting the connections together to pull this out. And at one point I was like, I really want a musician. We don't have anyone in music. And then she's like looking around, how can I find a musician? And then she approached someone from the Charleston Orchestra, which is Jan Marie Joyce. She's in the corner behind that other painting. She's a viola player, has been a viola player there for, I think, 25 years. She was the youngest hired ever. Amazing musician. So, and I would come up with something and Robin would look at me like, oh my God. And every time, like, I would think a little bit bigger. And I say like, I'm going to put a book together because I think people need to be able to take something out. And she's like, yes. What do you mean you're going to put a book together? I say, yeah, it's going to happen. It did. And then I say like, we're going to have a fundraiser. And she's like, okay, let's do a fundraiser. Let's put, like an event and all of this. COVID happened. We couldn't do a fundraiser with an event how she's used to doing. So I said, well, it's going to be virtual. And she's like, I know nothing about that. And she was the person who was going to organize it. So I organized because I'm more tech savvy. So I put the whole fundraiser together online. It was absolutely crazy pulling all the strings and making everything happen. I called all my contacts and say like, okay, because I often give to fundraisers and I say like, this past year I contributed with at least 3 that were done online. Wow. So I contact them on. I'm like, what platform did you use? How did you make it happen? Like they all gave me different tips and it worked. So I am very happy that with all the hiccups, it all happened.
Wow, that's just amazing. And you say on your website that art is all about creating a shift in someone's mind. If a person is uneasy, art can bring them peace. When did you get all of your peace doing this art?
Well, in between painting people, I go into landscapes. So when I am struggling, because if you look at my studio, I have a couple of paintings happening simultaneously. Like there's this one, it's going to be for my mandala series of Charleston. This one's a New York piece because I used to live there. Right. But when you paint a portrait, there's so much stress because you have to get it right. If you paint, like an eye that is a little bit wonky, it's not going to look good. But when you're painting a landscape, you can allow yourself to be more creative. So like you paint, let's say the angel oak, even with the classic branches that people recognize the tree, if it's, a little bit off, if you make it a bit more interpretive and have, it's going to be fine. It's not a problem. It's a landscape. So whenever I was stressed about getting really tense with my portraits, I would go into painting lovely landscapes, something completely, happy because it's free. It doesn't have stress when I work on this. And that goes the same way for my clients. And when you say like about creating a shift, that line came from an interview I gave several years ago to the Charleston Style and Design magazine. And I remember I was talking to the writer, and she asked, what art meant to me. And I came to that, to that line then. And it really like it was an aha moment for myself when I realized that art can create a shift on people's mind, and that's usually what it does. But the shift is always related to the state of mind of the person. So if you're feeling uneasy, what do you need? You need something to bring you peace.
Right.
So you're going to look, like Matisse said once, he wanted his art to be like a comfortable armchair for the worker at the end of the day. So you have a hard day's work. You want to go home. What do you want? You want to relax. You want to feel peace.
Right.
So you have that inspiring piece of art that just, takes you to a completely different realm. Let's put it that way. And then when we have the situations in society where, you need to think about something, you need to create like movement because people are just not doing anything about that. Like we need change. And that's when art can promote change. So that's when we get into the equality. That's when we get into, climate change and all the things that need attention. So people need to be pushed into making a difference because right now, like on those situations, there's a lot of like, why would I be involved? It doesn't affect me. Or, they think it doesn't affect them. Or they're just not paying attention. So when you bring awareness, it promotes change.
How do you capture stillness in art?
Stillness. If you want to actually get technical on the art side, we could talk about composition. If you think of horizontal lines, that brings you peace. It's the ocean, it's the horizon, it's far away. So if you want to paint something that is peaceful, it's going to be horizontal and very, smooth. If you want to bring something dynamic, it's going to have a lot of lines going diagonal. That comes from design. I studied design. I actually graduated in advertising and marketing back when I was young. That's my formal education. So, like you think of dynamic, you're going to think, of different lines going in diagonal. And if you want to think of inspiring, you go up. So there's all the vertical that makes you look up and, it's all about a feeling, but it's how, colors will affect that. So you have cool colors usually make you feel calm. That's why, a lot of hospitals and healing places will have like blue or green because they want you to cool down. If you want to be like, for instance, like the food industry, we use red and yellow. Look at McDonald's. Look at all the food chain because that excites you and that makes you want to eat because you're just like in that mood. So yeah, colors can create a difference. Composition can create a difference. So yeah, there's many ways to bring peace in a piece of art.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said this too. I remember loving art since my first set of crayons. What crayon fair allowed you to be creative?
Oh my God. I have I don't have the best memory. Like my mind just doesn't hold memory so well, but I remember feelings more than situations. So, and mom would tell me that whenever I was agitated as a child, she would bring me a clean new notepad and a set of crayons or, colored pencils. And I would sit for hours just, drawing, scribbling, just anything. So that was always my home, like since I was little, that was what made me feel myself.
As a matter of fact, you said this too, quote, I would get in trouble for sketching on walls, but I simply couldn't help myself. I'm wondering, what would you sketch on a wall today?
Oh my God. Well, I actually just got invited to put a project together for a large mural, which I haven't proposed the design yet, but it's an inspiring mural.
Yes.
I actually did murals for a living before moving here. Back in Brazil, I spent a few years of my life as a full-time volunteer between a meditation school and a Buddhist temple. So I learned to paint murals back then because at the Buddhist temple, we were painting murals to, create the space. And then I decided to bring that into my living after I, went back to the world, as I say, because I was a full-time volunteer resident. And then I went back to, trying to make a living. So I decided to paint murals, and I did a lot of kids' rooms. I did a lot of, restaurants, and I did outside walls for spaces like, a yoga studio. I painted, all these designs on the, mandalas and beautiful stuff outside. So I did a lot of that. But I haven't been doing that as a business in a long time. But when I got approached by this dear friend of mine, Patterson, and he said like he woke up with this thought that he wanted to put like an inspiring line on the facade that they have in a place downtown. And I was like, that goes right with my mission. Mm. So even though murals is not something that I do anymore, having a message out there to inspire people, that talks to my heart. So I'm still going to design. It should be like something with flowers and a hummingbird and something that, uplifting. And a great line that, I'm not sharing that just now, but it's inspiring people. So, yes.
And speaking of obviously feelings, you say you always felt this urge to paint to express my emotions and ideas through art. What were your emotions then, and what are your emotions now?
Oh, it's funny. When we're younger, I think we dream different things, right? So as a young artist in New York, I wanted to be in museums. I wanted to conquer the world, like be the new Van Gogh, new Picasso. Like I had like this vision that I could be so much. And then I went back to Brazil and I was severely depressed, and I went to the Buddhist temple because I was married and we got divorced. It wasn't a good place good time in my life. So I took a long time, like 4 years, on self-discovering, like going deep into my emotions and knowing who I really was. And serving people really touched my heart. And I was like, that's the only thing that truly matters. So I got out of that period of, getting in touch with my inner self, coming out with a mission that my art should be about making people happy and not so much about being in museums. And when I shifted, then I actually got into a museum, wow. Which is funny enough. But my mission now is not about fame. It's not about, being the next big person. It's all about like, what can I create with my art that will bring goodness to this place?
To this place. That's just amazing. And you say every painting is a portal with the ability to transport people to a different mindset, triggering a set of emotions, whether bringing the observer to a peaceful place or encouraging their minds to venture into new ideas. Where does your mind go artistically?
It goes to avoid. Crazy as it may sound, I have all these thoughts, and when I start painting, they disappear. It's kind of like I get into a zone, a creative zone, where there are no thoughts. It's like I'm meditating as I'm painting, and often like I'll be in front of my easel for 5 hours before I realize I haven't taken a break to go pee or drink a glass of water. So yes, or eat. Exactly. So that's how I function as an artist. So I have like the effort before I start creating, which is where my mind is just getting all these ideas, and then the rest part is actually when I'm painting, because that's when I am quiet in my mind and I'm just allowing the creative juice to come to the canvas.
Oh yes, absolutely. And speaking of obviously the mission in change, you said, I see art as a catalyst to promote change. How have you increased the rate of a reaction to art with issues without letting the issues actually overwhelm you?
Well, they do overwhelm me. I can't just keep myself separated. It's very hard. So whenever I get involved with something, I may not show it to people, but every interview that I did for the project for Like a Girl, I got so touched. Like some of them, I was sobbing. I couldn't talk to them properly. I have tissues and I'm hearing their stories and I'm so touched by them. And also, like when I talk about, green matters, how we have to preserve this planet for our sake and all of that, I really get disturbed. Like from not seeing like the recycling done properly, all those little things, like it really gets to me. But I try really hard to take a deep breath and put the focus on what I can make to make a change. And just sitting and suffering is not going to do anything. So I have those moments where I really struggle, that things really get to me, and it's kind of like, ow, it gets to my guts, like it's really painful. And then I take a breath and I go like, being in pain is not going to take me anywhere.
Mm.
So that's when I outsource that into a project, and I make the project speak for itself. And then, that's where I say, okay, now I'm doing something about that. I'm not just sitting and crying.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And you also said, I'm constantly working on projects that support causes I believe in, such as equality and sustainability, as you just mentioned. How equitable and sustainable will you be and will your art be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I do have a few goals that I have no idea how I'm going to accomplish them, because the products that we use for art are not sustainable. And I have looked many places where, like some artists, they have made the effort of using paint that is not hard for the environment. For instance, I had some artists coming in here recently, like that was helping them with photography, and she saw my brushes and she was like, oh, so what brushes do you use? And I said, the cheap ones. Because if I buy expensive brushes, it will mean that I will be cleaning them, and you can't really clean and put it down the drain because it's very harmful.
Right.
So I leave all my brushes really dirty in a container, and I just I wipe them, I keep using, and eventually they're not good anymore, and I toss them in the garbage. But it's just like one brush. I'm not pouring the fluids down the drain. So it may sound crazy, but I don't buy expensive brushes, so I don't have to clean them and pour the bad chemicals down the drain. But going from not having time to make my own almond milk like I used to make back in Brazil. I used to bake bread, I used to make my almond milk, and right now I don't have the time to actually do any of that, so I buy them ready. So I don't see myself at this moment having the time to invest on making my own paint that is, sustainable and all of that. But I do have a goal to achieve that and have a sustainable production.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Fer Caggiano, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to the award-winning Quintins CloseUps.
Thank you, Quintin.
You're very welcome.